everybody, welcome back to the 71st episode of Taps and Patience, the podcast that does not only awkward outros, but also awkward intros. I am AJ with Audacity Micro, here with Harrison of Precision Ingenuity. Harrison, I have a special announcement. I saved this one until we are live to tell you.
Oh, great.
We have our first Patreon.
Oh, we do?
Yeah, so huge shout out to, I'm just going to say your first name because I don't know how you want me to address you yet on the podcast. I don't want to dox you. So Jake on the Patreon, thank you very much. He joined at the $10 tier, which means we say his name in every episode. Sometimes we say it 4 times. Jake.
Is it Jake from State Farm?
No. I almost said his last name again, but I'm remembering not to dox him. So Jake, if you would like to be addressed in a specific manner, such as your shop name, or if you want me to full name you, I will full name you. So thank you very much for supporting us. All of that money will go to getting us to IMTS. I'm sure the first chunk of it will go to paying for an Airbnb, and the rest of it will probably go to food, because food at IMTS is expensive. So thank you very much for your support, sir. We were talking, I'll announce this now, even though we haven't truly finalized details. We were talking about doing a coin for our first few Patreon backers. So I'll probably have Scott design something, and then Harrison will laser them up, and we'll do a Taps and Patience challenge coin. So Jake, once we do get that stuff sorted out, you, sir, will get one. So thank you very much. If you are not Jake and would like to be like Jake, you can find our Patreon at patreon.com/tapsandpatience. And yeah, again, all that money is just going to go to getting us to IMTS. So we very much appreciate it.
Sounds good. So what's going on, man?
Tiny parts. Tiny parts.
Yeah, I saw some photos. It looked like you had some parts that were just as big as the lettering on a penny. The year the penny was made. That. Yep. That's tiny.
Bigger than Abraham Lincoln's eyeball. But the way I described them to my dad the other day was, if Abraham Lincoln was eating an apple on the penny, then the parts I made would be an appropriate size for an apple.
Oh my goodness. That's tiny.
They were very small. I'm not going to lie, I was unprepared for how small these were.
That's small enough that I think most people's chips are larger than that whenever they're cutting parts.
I think my chips were larger than that.
Oh my goodness. That's tiny.
Yeah, they were approximately 1 millimeter by 0.5 millimeter.
Yeah.
So,
no.
Which I knew going into the project. I did not understand the scale of how small that actually was until I started making the parts.
Man, but did you sit there with instead of turning on flood coolant, just get a little syringe and just squirt it?
No, I did full flood coolant. The bigger problem was handling them after the machine. The machine handled these beautifully. I had issues with burrs. That was really the only thing that I was fighting all the way through was burrs. Mm-hmm. Everything was burrs. Mm-hmm. But the machine accuracy on these parts was stupidly good. Plus or minus 4 or 5 microns across the whole production run.
That's awesome.
So machine really good. But it took me a while to get one that wasn't just one big burr. Because it had some holes that were basically the part was a cylinder stacked on another cylinder. And there were holes that were half off the top cylinder and then, all the way through on the bottom cylinder. And when I profiled that, it liked to just push the material into those holes. And so almost all of my time in this job was figuring out how to make that not happen.
Gotcha. Yeah, that is a whole different level of challenging. Yeah, tiny parts. We in Weston were looking at some tiny parts on Xometry today and kind of going back through. We have a little 3D printed bin of all of the tiniest parts that we've ever run, scrap parts, just to kind of have a history of how small we've gone. And that's way smaller than anything we've ever done. We did some really tiny parts, and I think I did this parts on Upwork. I did Upwork for a little while. But we did some tiny brass parts, and I did a method that I haven't ever done since, but it worked out really well. I just don't do that tiny of parts, and you might be interested in it. I used jeweler's wax. So
Okay.
what I did was I machined a part, and I machined everything around it, and I made it into like a trough, and then I filled it full of wax, and then I flipped the part over, and I machined the other side, and the wax held the part, and then you didn't lose the part; it didn't go flying.
Mm.
And then you just had to stick it in like a chemical that would eat off the wax. I forget what it was. And basically, you'd have a clean part that was 100% machined.
Yeah.
And for what you're doing, that would work great,
It probably would
honestly.
work great. All the tiny parts I've done so far have been slitting saw parts. So machine the top of it and then slitting saw it off, leaving tabs,
Mm-hmm.
and then come in with sandpaper to remove the tabs.
The parts that we did the wax with, I don't know any other way I could have done them. They look like a flower, but they were the size of oh, they're probably about the size of Abe Lincoln's head, maybe a little bit larger.
Okay, so those are pretty small.
But they had like petals that went out, and so there was curvature on the inside, and there was no square edge anywhere, and they had
Mm,
undercuts on the bottom side. And
yeah.
so there was nothing you could hold it on to. There was nothing you could indicate it to. I machined all of one side and then flipped it over. And the inside of them, the underside of them had a hole that was dished like a ball, and then they had like a really tiny hole drilled in the center. I think it was like a 10 thou or 15 thou center hole,
Okay.
but they were like it had like a ball dish in the bottom. So
Yeah, wax seems like a good way to hold those. Making a like I guess it's still window machining. Like a wax window machining fixture has been on my to-do list for basically since I've had the Pocket NC, and I've still never got to it. But
yeah.
because you could make just like a little picture frame thingy that had removable tops and bottoms, then you could just pour wax in there around your part,
Hmm.
remove the removable tops and bottoms, and then window machine it.
Yeah. Well, the reason I did it this way is because I machined one side and then it was rigidly held to the material on the opposite side. That created the pocket. I filled that pocket and then I decked it off to the height of all the surrounding stock.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you flip it over, you're machining away everything that is going to be the top of the part. And if you have to wrap around the corners, your wax is going all the way. If you start with a solid piece of a solid part in the middle, you're going to eat away all the material that's holding it to the wax.
Yeah,
So you have to do op one and then add wax. Otherwise, it's not gonna hold.
yeah.
So, but and the wax I used, it was a jeweler's wax. It got really hard, but not. It didn't have. It was really hard, but I had probably one in four that would pop off because it didn't have much gripping power. It was
Okay.
it it was it would hold great, but if there wasn't anything that it could kind of get its fingers around, it could pop it off.
So on years ago, back on my Shoreline mill, I did a project where, gosh, was I drilling holes in pennies? That's a favorite project of mine. Anyway, I was holding some sort of flat part that didn't have much thickness to it, and you couldn't stick it in a vise or whatever. Plus, I didn't have a vise for my Shoreline, but I made a tray of wax. The specific wax is called dopping wax, which is used for like putting facets on diamonds and gems and stuff. Like it's used as a glue to glue the diamond to a stick so that you
Mm-hmm.
can cut it. And that wax was very ooey and gooey and got very hard. And what I did with that is I had this tray of wax that mounted to my machine. I think it was in a 3D printed tray. And then I would machine a pocket that would fit the part, and that would locate it, and then I would hit it with a heat gun, and that would make the wax sticky and grab the part. So that works pretty well. I'm not sure I would be holding thousands of an inch with it, but for quick decorative stuff, it worked really well.
Yeah, Yeah, I'd be interested. I think you should try some kind of wax holding with how tiny your parts are. I think that'd be
Yeah.
interesting to see the results.
Yeah, having if I had like a nice template for it and a nice setup to do it quickly and easily, it might come in handy.
Yeah, or even there was another guy on Instagram. I think his titanium ring, or something
Mhm.
like that, Titan ring.
Titan Titan ring design. Yeah.
Yeah, something along those. That guy, he did that same method, except instead of using wax, he used a metal that had a very low melting point.
Mhm.
I believe. I don't remember exactly what he used, but he used it whenever he did his fidget spinner. He had a fidget spinner that
Propellers.
was propellers, and I think the base, it had a whole lot of surfacing on it, and there was no good way to hold it. And so I think he machined everything away and then filled it back in with this other material, and that allowed him to hold it in a different position and do fully machining it without doing it that way. So
Maybe that's what I should do for my window fixture. That makes more sense, I think.
yeah, I don't remember what material he used.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about though. I don't think it's straight bismuth, is it?
It might be,
It's something like that. Maybe a bismuth alloy.
but anyways, for really tiny parts, I think that would work really well.
Yeah.
So guess what?
You have the machine making parts?
No.
It sucks.
Yeah.
So why isn't it making parts yet?
So I think we got switched to a different Haas Tech because this one's technically over the border in Oklahoma. And
Okay.
so I didn't know this guy existed. So I'll find out hopefully tomorrow. But we got some snow
If he
today.
exists.
Yeah. We got some snow today, and he called and said he couldn't make it because of the snow. And it really pissed us off, if I'm honest. Reason being is we got like a half inch of snow and it was gone by 10. And the roads never got bad. And so like we were just really ticked off today. But thankfully, when I got home and I was talking to my wife about it, she's got family that lives across the border, and apparently they got like 6 inches of snow, and her parents
Okay.
got snowed in. They kind of live in a valley, and he only has like a 2-wheel drive truck, and so in fact his her dad called her and told her to FaceTime so she could look out so he could look out the window and see outside that there was no snow because he didn't believe her.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I
So
suppose that's a little bit more
that's
heartening.
a little better, but it's still really frustrating. So he says he's going to be here first thing in the morning. If not, I'm going to have to send them a nasty gram because
Yeah.
I am. And here's the thing. Me and Weston have talked about it. My frustration is not that it's taken a week to get this machine running. My frustration is that it has been pretty much every day since the machine has been installed. We've been told it's going to be the next day. And
Yep.
so, if we had installed this machine on Friday, not last Friday, but 2 weeks ago, and they said, "Hey, it's going to be not next week, but the following week on Monday or Tuesday that we're going to have time to get a tech out there," and he showed up, it'd be the exact same amount of delay, and I wouldn't be frustrated.
Yep.
And for me, it's like, okay, we're going to have a tech in here the day after the machine is installed. Okay, that doesn't happen. Then it's oh, we forgot to get you on the schedule or something. I don't know what happened, but it's going to be Wednesday. And so Wednesday comes. Oh, tech had to delay at at what he was doing, and so now it's going to be Thursday afternoon. Thursday afternoon. Oh, the tech is sick. He can't make it. He might make it in the morning, the next day. So Friday comes, don't hear anything from him. Then Monday comes today, and it's like, oh, we got snowed in. We can't make it. It's just like I know it's not like the sick and the snow. I can excuse those on some level, but it's still really frustrating.
Yep.
So I try to be nice and give people as much of a benefit of as a doubt, but I think at this point, understanding my frustration, is validated, I feel like, to anyone who's kind of paid attention to what's been going on. So, anyways, even if the tech today was like, "Hey, I can't make it this morning. If the weather clears up, I'll come in halfway through the day and get started on it." I would have appreciated that a lot more than, "Oh, I got up this morning, I couldn't get out of my driveway, right now, so I'm
So I
not going to
gave
come."
up.
So I gave up for the whole day. Like, that just is annoying.
Yeah, I I think this is another example of, and I guess we can't really blame this on like capital H Big Haas. This is probably like an HFO thing,
It
but
is.
like Haas sucks at managing expectations. I think if they just did that better, people would be so much more happy with them.
Yeah. I've been really happy with my lathe. Like, honestly, the tech was there when it was being installed, and they installed the machine and we were running within 4 hours. So, like, my first experience with our first machine was absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah.
10 out of 10, best machine install I've ever had. Also the first. But
Still the best, however.
still the best though.
Second time now.
And so now we've spent over twice the amount of money, and the surface. Now, to be fair to Haas, apparently there's a lot of shops that are buying Haas's right now, and their techs are overworked. At least that's what I'm hearing. And like I said, I think last time we were told when our machine was getting installed that it was going to be 2 weeks minimum. And our Haas rep said, "Hey, I'm not, I'm going to see if I can do anything to get you guys up there a little bit faster." And so, technically, if we get anything less than 2 weeks, it's going to be quicker than what they told us it would be.
Mhm.
But like you said, it's exactly what we said. It's the managing of expectations of, "Oh, you're going to be, we're going to try for tomorrow. We're going to try for tomorrow. We're going to try for tomorrow." And it's like, okay, just tell me it's going to be a week or two if it's going to be a week or two, because then I'll be okay. But yeah, grr.
The worst part is I've always heard that Haas has some of the best support, at least in the US, if not, the world. And like this is the best support that you can get for machine tools. Like,
Yeah. Well, yeah. If my machine was down, I'm sure they would have someone there. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe not. I don't know. I haven't been in that situation, so I don't know. It does not inspire confidence, I will tell you that. But I don't know. Who knows? Maybe everyone else's machine's going down and they're putting me on hold so they can get everyone else back up and running. Who knows?
yeah.
But
I mean, I'm sure this is a busy time because everybody pushes to buy machines at the end of the year. Then,
yeah.
well, no, I guess those for tax reasons they would have to be delivered before the end of the year. But I'm sure there's still overflow from that super busy time.
Yeah. I'm not sure. Well, and Haas sent out an email like a month ago saying that, they're going to raise prices again. And
Yeah.
last time they did that, they were backed up for 9 months with machine orders.
Wow.
So, like the factory was. Because we when we were looking at buying our lathe, it was right around the time Haas did a price hike, and we couldn't
Hmm.
afford it at that point in time. And so we waited 6 months. And when I was talking to the sales rep, they said that they were 9 months out when we first started talking to them. And they said that Haas had caught up. By the time we placed our order, it was down to like 3 weeks for a machine.
Huh.
And so they had caught up, but they were projecting 9 months when we talked to them the first time. And so they managed expectations well in the fact that they said it was going to be a lot longer. And then when they caught up to it, and then they got our machine done in like 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And it was, we ordered it, and we ordered it in less than a month. It was sitting on our floor, and there was a tech there that installed it. Like, it was flawless, smooth, awesome. So it might have been 2 weeks actually. Now that I think about it, it was fast. It was really fast. So, anyways,
Did we talk about the Tormach leaving? Does the world know that? I think we did on the last episode.
yeah, I think we talked about it on the last podcast.
Did
Because
I tell you about my one splurge with the Tormach money?
maybe.
I bought horse stall mats to use as big rubber mats for the shop.
I don't think you told me that, but I think I saw that on an Instagram story.
They they have been very nice. Like shockingly a large improvement over what I did have. The
Yeah.
shop just feels neater now. I bought four by six floor mats. They say they're 3/4 of an inch thick. I could swear they're closer to a full inch thick.
Mm-hmm.
And they're easier to clean than the like shop floor mat that I had. They're easier to clean. They're better on my feet. They're larger. All around, just a big improvement.
That's
My only
awesome.
complaint about them is because they are so thick and my workbench is not on them, my workbench feels a lot lower. Like it's only an inch, but it feels like I'm a giant and my workbench is tiny now. So I may need to reorganize things so my benches are on the same mats to bring
Mm-hmm.
it back up to the right level for me.
On the opposite side of feeling too low, my dad did make us a cart for our grizzly saw and wrote and
Oh,
picked it up
nice.
about 6 inches off the floor.
Okay,
So
your bandsaw.
yeah, our bandsaw.
Okay,
So it's now up higher, and we don't have to bend over to saw cut as much.
that's nice.
Yeah,
I
it's
put mine
really
on a
nice.
pallet so I could pallet jack it around.
Mm-hmm.
The only problem is the pallet I have is a little bit wimpy and it has a little bit of a side to side wiggle, which is not caused any issues yet, but is slightly scary.
Gotcha. Yeah, I can understand that.
So
What?
going back to harp on Haas a little bit here, I was thinking about doing a video, mostly just to get internet trolls mad at me again. That's like how to fix Haas.
Mm-hmm.
And here's my proposition for you. Because it's machines fine, like price is good, service fine, is just expectations management. So here's my pitch on how to fix it. So on the Haas website, they keep their prices the same. So don't change the prices at all. But when you click the build the machine button, it automatically selects high speed machining and rigid tapping and puts that in your build options. And then if you want, you can remove them. I honestly think that would make people way less angry.
Maybe. I don't know. It might piss a whole different group of people off.
Yeah.
I bought this machine and I could have saved, $4,000.
Well, yeah, exactly. Because then you're saving money. You're not adding more money.
Yeah, I know. I know. I mean, it is what it is. I understand why they need to do that, but I do think there needs to be like a schedule or like any new option they add, if it's been an option that you can buy for, you know, after 5 years discount it, after 10 years discount it, after 15 years make it free. Something like
Yeah.
that. Like keep innovating, keep adding things, but like or make it standard, something. And they're doing some of that stuff. Like rigid tapping is finally standard on like a lot of machines right
Not
now.
all of them, though.
Not all of them, but it's finally standard on some of them, on the majority of them. And so I wish they would do that more, but it is what it is. I I respect the lower pricing, but it's it really ticks a lot of people off whenever you're paying, an extra 10 to 15 grand for software unlocks.
Yeah. I maybe like if 90% of people buy that upgrade for the machine, maybe then they should, put it as a standard option that you can remove. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. I
because
don't
who
know.
doesn't buy a mill with high speed machining? Like, why?
People who don't know what it does,
Yeah, I suppose.
but I mean anyone who's like the university mill, like the mini mill that they got, it doesn't have high speed machining. But that makes sense. Like I understand it in that context.
Yeah,
But for me, any machine that has an SS on it should have high speed machining.
I think those
Period.
do,
They do
don't they?
not.
Oh, they
No.
don't.
It's an
That's
it's an
dumb.
option. Yeah, see, like it's stuff like that. Like I could understand it being an option for like a tool room mill. You're trying to keep it
Yeah,
as cheap as possible, And if someone wants to pay to have that option, hey, I understand that. But if you're already going to a super speed machine, you're going from an 8,000 RPM spindle to a 12,000 RPM spindle as standard, you're increasing your rapids from, what is it, like 800 inches a minute to 1,400 inches a minute, something like that. Like, high speed machining should be just like a given, because like the whole thing about it is super speed. Like, it's in the name, and you don't have high speed machining as a default
Yep.
standard option. Like, that's probably my, like, yeah, that's just like so dumb. So dumb. So
I should get back to say I like Haas. I think they've been doing some good things lately. I really like Haas tooling.
mm-hmm.
I like my OM. Like, I'm very happy with that machine. It's 18 years old and it is holding great tolerances.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. No machine tool builder is perfect, I guess, is the moral of the story.
No, none of them are perfect. They all have quirks and things about them that are, I can't imagine there's not a single machine tool builder out there that has, all of their customers look at their machines and go, oh, they're amazing. Every single customer is going to complain about something different. It's when they all start complaining about the same thing
Yeah.
that it becomes a problem. And I think Haas has a lot of targets on its head just because of how it does some of its things. And I think they would help a lot of people out if they change some of that. Just opinion. There was something else I was going to talk about. That being said, I really want to say goodbye to my Tormach. Like, that thing has been awesome. I'm not here to harp on Tormach, but it's kind of in the same vein as Haas right now. It seems how we're talking about venting conversations. I have loved my Tormach. It has been an amazing machine, but it is time to go.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm about to have another machine up and running, and so it's going to get a lot less use. But I was running. I'll put things in context for you guys. I was running a 4-inch by 4-inch by 3/4 inch thick 304 stainless steel part. Okay, it was basically a 4-inch square that I was machining a 3.9-inch disc out of. Okay.
Okay.
And I removed it was material I had on hand. It was a Xometry job. And so I took about little over a 1/4 inch off of the top and then profiled the disc and then drilled a hole in the center. That was my op one side. Okay.
Okay.
Guess how long it took me?
28 minutes.
You are very close. Like, it was just over 26, just under 27.
Okay.
So it's like 26 and a half minutes. But it was so slow. And it was struggling the whole time. It was clicking and I had to slow things down. And it just couldn't handle it. It could be my toolings wore out. It could be that my gibs need to be adjusted. I have moved the machine. I haven't gone through it completely to make sure, I've leveled it. I've done tool changes. I've indicated things, but I haven't adjusted the gibs, which is, it could be the gibs. Out of everything that could be wrong, it could be the gibs. Or it could be my power might be a little bit lower voltage than at the new shop than it was at the old shop. Those are kind of the two things. But regardless of either one of those facts, it's just, it shouldn't take me, almost 30 minutes to do something like that. That's just, if I'm going to be competitive, if I'm going to grow the business, if I'm going to try to push out as many parts as I'm trying to push out, I can't take that long. And that's the kind of stuff that I've done the whole time with the company. And I've managed to grow it as far as I have, which has been awesome. So that machine has been awesome because of that. But if I'm going to enter into the next tier, that's just way too long. That's just way too long. Like, a couple passes with, like, a half inch or 3/4 inch end mill, and all the work I could have had done in under 5 minutes. I'm sure, easy.
Yeah.
So, and that would be without pushing anything. So, But
Yeah.
anyways,
I don't know. I liked my Tormach. I was a little bit sad to see it go. I guess mostly for spindle security because now I'm a one spindle shop.
yeah,
But at the same time, I had outgrown that machine. Like,
yeah,
especially as I was getting into smaller and smaller and stupider tools. Like, you
yeah.
know, I I didn't really want to run my half inch 1/32 inch end mill on the Tormach.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. They make money.
Yeah. To be fair, I would love to hang on to that Tormach in the corner as like a play, prototype, and friend machine.
Yeah.
Like it would be the perfect machine for those three roles. Playing around with prototyping and doing something for a buddy. For the way our company's going, awesome machine for those items. For production, no. No.
Yeah. The nice thing is you can resell that Tormach for a large percentage of its, new value.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
And I'm the more I think about it, the more tempted I am to do something like that. I got to get comfortable with the new machine, but I would be very tempted to sell it for a used machine,
or
and
get
I'd probably
yourself a
get it.
DC-1.
Yeah, that a DC, a DT, or a brother or a Robo Drill. Something of those natures. There was a guy that had a used machine salesman who sent me an email the other day with a Robo Drill. And if I had the money laying around, I would have bought that one in a heartbeat. It was the
Yeah.
perfect machine. Did I talk about it last time?
Maybe.
It was like a 2018 Robo Drill. It had 3 spindle coolant, 24,000 RPMs. It was like a 20 by 16 table or 24 by 16, I don't know, something like that. And it had a fourth axis. And it was just like the dream machine and it had the other thing that was really cool, it had the ultra precision unlock, like
Ooh,
the
yeah.
at the extra decimal,
Yep.
5 decimals instead of 4, and so like it was a sweet machine. If I had the cash laying around, I would have bought it in a heartbeat.
I've been buying metrology stuff. That's really where my shop is at the weakest at the moment,
Mm-hmm.
and something I've been working on. I I was reminded that Shars existed the other day, and I was like, oh, there's a bunch of just kind of cheap stuff that I need to get from here. And I got a height gauge. I got a set of gauge blocks. I expanded my gauge pin collection. I got a 4-jaw chuck to go on my little fixture plate mount because
Mm-hmm.
my 3-jaw went with the Tormach. There was I got some of those like T transfer gauges. I don't know. I was like, okay, I have a couple $100 here that I can invest back in the shop. So I was like, what are some low cost, big bang purchases that I can make? And
Yep. Speaking of metrology, I actually had a phone meeting, or not a phone meeting, a Teams meeting with a salesman for some metrology equipment.
okay.
Um, and I don't remember the guy's name or the company's with, so I apologize for both of those. But he had one of those machines that you can stick a part under it, and it's like the digital version of a comparator,
Yeah.
and it like snaps a photo of it, and it like can do like 100 measurements in a couple seconds type deal.
I was
And
literally shopping for those today.
he's gonna bring that machine and a portable CMM to our shop to demo next week.
Nice.
So I'm looking forward to both of those because those are both machines that, especially for work kind of like Xometry, because Xometry wants everything inspected, and if you could
Yep.
just stick it underneath that and have it measure everything and then print off a report, like, I mean, honestly, one of the biggest downsides sides to Xometry, and one of the biggest reasons that we don't like taking a lot of Xometry work, is the level of inspection that needs to be done. Not that we don't like doing that for other customers. Like, we do have precision parts that we run, but it's the fact that like if someone's plus or minus 5 on the whole part and they have all these dimensions, like you have to measure every single one of those, even if you know they're going to be good.
So, do you know
It's
what I saw the other day? Do you know what I learned?
hmm,
In the Xometry book, it says for standard inspection, it's 10 dimensions or less.
seriously?
Uh huh. That it's strange because that's actually what they tell the customers. Is the standard inspection is 10 dimensions or less.
Really?
So I've I still do. I mean, I do as many as I think is necessary for the part, but I'm definitely not doing all of them at this point. Like, not recorded. Like, it'll be enough to make sure the part's good. But
Yeah.
like, if they dimension a chamfer or something, like, screw that. Like, I'm not going to record all of that for every part.
We probably over checked a lot of parts if I had to guess then.
Yeah.
Because we make our own drawings. We dimension not every feature, but like every feature that would be critical. Like at one point, I know this for a fact actually. At one point, Xometry told us, and maybe this is what I'm going off of when we were being onboarded. I think it was when we were being onboarded and they were going over this. They told us that every single hole had to be, regardless of what was selected, had to be the diameter had to be measured and the XY position of it on the part had to be denoted somehow and measured. And that was something that we were told, I think, during our onboarding stage a couple of years ago. Maybe that's changed since then, but that's what we've always gone off of.
I just know nobody's yelled at me. Though, granted, because you have told me that in the past, like, that is one of the things that, I pretty much always check. Because I figure that is, like, for most parts, that pretty much is a critical dimension, is the position of holes.
Yeah.
But
So that's something that we've always checked because we've always, no matter what inspection level has been done, that's what we've always had to check. And that's one of the biggest benefits to, a photo eye would be the best for like something you can just stick your part under, especially like the blocks with like 1,000 holes
yeah.
that Xometry has every once in a while. It's like, man, it's a really easy part, but if I have to dimension every single one of those holes, I'm going to be here all freaking day. And so, like, it doesn't matter what you pay me. I'm going to spend so much time in inspection; it's not worth it. But if I could stick it under an eye, and it's like, oh, they're all measured just like that, then it makes a lot more
Yeah.
sense.
There's kind of like two tiers of those systems that I found. They're the ones that are like, I would consider like an optical CMM.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I guess there's three tiers because then there's also a profile projector or a optical comparator
Mm-hmm.
with a digital back end or front end or whatever. And those are like $15,000. But then there are these like digital toolmakers microscopes. And the one I'm looking at is approximately $4,000. And it doesn't automatically pick up features, but like you can, basically like sketching in Fusion, you can draw 3 points and it'll measure a circle for you.
Oh,
And
nice.
that's I think what I'm gonna get.
The one that this guy was showing me, it was pretty cool because he showed a part that had this webbing. It had these thin webs, and then they were tapered. And he showed that you could stick a part under it. It would snap a photo, and it would create a 2D drawing. Like you could put a plane in there and do like a section view, and it'd create a 2D drawing of the webbing. And like
Would
you
it
could,
was it like focus stacking?
I have no idea how it did it. And this was just like a quick demo thing he showed me through the computer. When he's here in person, hopefully I can get a better idea of how it works. But like, it was funny because he was showing me the stuff, and he's like, "You might be more interested in the CMM than this thing." And I was like, "Actually, I'm more interested in that." And the reason is because their CMM that they had, that they said was cost competitive or cheaper. It had one of those hand deals that you go and you poke your
Yeah.
part with. And he's like, "Oh, this is way more cost affordable than a gantry style CMM, and it's a lot easier to use and all this stuff." And in the back of my head, the whole time he was talking about it, I know a local shop that has one of those. I've used one of those, and I don't want one of those because if I'm going to get a CMM, I want the gantry style because I want to be able to load up a program and tell it to go touch all the parts for me
Yeah.
and print out a report. I don't want to have to sit there and manually poke all of the holes and then, oh wait, there's some. I held it at a little bit of a wrong angle, so that point didn't capture. So I got to redo it. And no, I don't want any of that. Especially when he's like, I think he told me the price on that one. He says, low end 30, high end 90, and I'm like, you can get lots of CMMs in that
Yeah.
price range that are gantry style. That's not cheaper. So whatever is what it is.
Do you know what the optical one was?
I don't. I'll have more information when he comes and visits, because then I'll actually have some. Let me see if I can find what company he's with. Because if I can figure out his company, let's see here. Kessence
Was it
Equipment.
Kent? Oh, I'm sorry. What?
It's like Kessence
It's not Kent.
or yeah. Is that how you pronounce it? Kent?
Okay, yeah. They're a well known. Okay, so yeah, they're a big.
Yeah, they were huge.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Kent has their optical CMM thing. I want to
Yeah,
say those
Kent.
are like starting at 70-ish K. They're notorious for being aggressive with their marketing,
Yeah,
but they also make good stuff.
yeah, yeah. Laser tracker is basically is what it's. Or it's a laser tracker equivalent. It's the CMM and laser tracker combination. That's what it looks like. Like
Yeah.
looking at their website.
The company I was looking at for the digital like measuring microscopes is Insize. And they have a whole range. They actually have one that's like $500. It doesn't
Gotcha.
quite have the precision I would need though. I think actually for most people it'll give you a pretty close ballpark.
Yeah, optical comparator is the one that I was interested in that they
Okay.
had. So
Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff in that realm. I need something though.
so but
I just remembered I was talking to somebody on Instagram about a used machine and I completely forgot about it until now. The problem being the used machine is in California.
what is
But
it?
I need to follow up with them. I'm sorry. You know who you are if you're listening to this. I apologize for that. I don't remember the details of the machine off the top of my head. It's a little bit old. It's used,
Are we talking mill? Are
but
we talking
in its
lathe?
day, oh no, like a optical measuring system.
Okay. Okay.
Oh shoot, where was that conversation? I'm gonna feel I feel bad now for not answering because he was trying to help me out. I'll find it later.
Yeah.
But
Regardless of all that, yeah, optical comparator, some type of metrology equipment is going to end up in our shop in the future. So like we designed the shop around an inspection room with the idea of having a CMM or CMM style machine in there.
I will probably be getting a Rent-A-Shop probe soon.
Ooh.
Once all the dust has landed from selling the Tormach,
Mm-hmm.
I should have, some spare money. And most of it I'm going to keep for future machine purchases.
Mm-hmm.
But I should get that probe replaced.
Yeah, that'll be nice. What size tip do you want to put on it with the size of your parts?
That is a good question. It came with a 6 millimeter tip on it, which was just comically large.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, probably like a millimeter or something.
Yeah. Because that's one thing that I'm trying to decide. Because the Tormach came with a 3 millimeter ball, and ironically, we can buy the. We broke enough of those balls that, or enough of those tips that they're $150 a tip from Tormach, but we can get it.
You get them on Amazon for like $60.
Well, Haas has the 6 millimeter balls, and it's the same screw type as the Tormach one, and
Yeah.
it's like $50.
Okay.
So and that's what we switched to. But like you said, it's a comically large ball, and for what we run.
Those are nice though if you are like probing in an op 2 and there, may or may not be a burr.
Mm-hmm.
The bigger ball kind of helps you avoid those burrs.
Some, yeah. Well, it depends on the diameter of the shaft relative to the
That's
ball.
true.
And
Yeah.
the Tormach one actually had The metal one specifically actually had a really big relief after the ball for a little while. It was honestly the best. And then the ruby tipped one wasn't bad. But I think the Haas one, I think it's a 6 millimeter ball and a 5 millimeter shaft or something, or four
Huh.
millimeter. It's not as
Interesting.
big of a difference. I actually think the 3 millimeter ruby tip ball from Tormach has a smaller shaft relative to the diameter, like the difference between the two.
That's odd.
So, but
Yeah. I would probably go with something smaller, but not minuscule. Like I'm sure I could get like a half millimeter or something crazy.
yeah,
But I I don't know. I don't think that would be necessary.
yeah, I think a 1 to 2 millimeter ball would probably be pretty good. Definitely nothing larger than a 2 millimeter. I don't think so. Because especially if you're trying to probe any kind of holes
Yeah.
for alignment, you want to have for how small parts you're running. You're going to want a smaller diameter for that. So, although one thing I would like to get on our new machine is one of those probe guards.
Yeah, the probe halos.
Yeah.
Yep, those just make sense.
So, I think that's something that I'm going to try to get for our new machine. I think you could 3D print them. There's some
I
designs
think I've
online.
seen 3D printed ones. They
That'd
may
be
be a little
fine.
bit less reliable, but
Yeah. That shouldn't be bad though. Did I interrupt you? Was there something else you were going to say?
uh if I did, I lost it.
Oh, sorry.
I remember. So I have a new part coming up that'll have my record smallest tapped hole,
Oh,
which will be
really?
fun. It's an
Small.
M1.2.
Is that smaller than an odd than a zero?
Yeah, that's the equivalent of an M1.6. So this is like
Oh.
25% smaller.
Oh my. Are you going to thread mill it?
Yeah, I have a thread mill that'll just barely fit in there.
Oh my goodness.
So I've ordered the thread gauge. I'm hoping the thread gauge gets here. Like it'll get here before the parts have to ship, but I'm hoping it gets here early enough that I can start working on the parts early. But I did go ahead and just order some M1.2 screws if I needed to start working on them early. I
Mm-hmm.
could at least use those to test fitting. But
Have you looked into getting any of those taps that can drill the hole and tap at the same time?
no, I haven't.
I kind of want to get one to play with it.
I don't really worry about speed, and I would need a variety of them to fit all of the different holes that I see. Because
Mm-hmm.
I never see the same thread twice in the same month. Like everything's always different.
Yeah. How many different hole sizes can you get with one thread mill? Because I found that it's not as big of a gap, or is not as much crossover as I thought there would be.
I don't know. Depends on the thread mill. Several.
Because I have a thread mill that'll do like a number 6 to number 8, and then another one that'll do like a number 10 to number 12, and so it's like it can do any thread within those ranges, but like it's
But it can also do metric and
yeah,
MPTs and
yeah,
like fine pitch.
yeah. But it's a small range. But whatever range it can do anything in that range. So yeah, we'll see.
I assume the ones that are able to like mill their own holes as they thread mill, I assume those are single pitch, right? Or single thread specific.
I don't think so because I think they're a single thread at the bottom
Okay.
because they're cutting the thread as they're going, so there's no need to be multi flute. So they should be able to do any pitch.
True.
Like the ones that I've seen have all been single thread.
I thought you like plunged straight down to drill the hole and then threaded your way out. Is that not how they work? Okay.
No, you run the mill in reverse and you thread. So normally you have to go to the bottom and work your way up. These they counter rotate, and so they're cutting backwards.
Oh,
That way
yeah.
you can thread down. And what's really cool is the one that I saw. I saw a, a little video on it. It threaded down, and then when it pulled out in the center, the bottom of the tool was tapered at 45, and it chamfered the top of the hole. So it cut the threads and then it chamfered the top all in one go.
Yeah, that is cool.
So thought that was sweet. But I don't know. I
I
do
don't know.
know
But
that like we've hit Xometry really hard and we've accepted like 6 jobs in one day.
okay.
And by the way, Xometry has been showing us a ton of jobs here recently. Like we were up to almost 60 jobs and then I cleared off the board and then I came back after lunch and it was over 20.
I have been seeing a lot more jobs recently popping up onto my board. I still don't see as much as you guys do. Either that or I just clear off a lot more than I realize. But I do it like, 5 at a time.
Yeah.
But yeah, right now there are jobs sitting on my job board that I would take if I had time to make them. So,
Yeah. And me and Weston, we sat down. I've talked to Weston. We're going to sit down together and we're gonna write up a document of guidelines for Xometry.
yep.
Minimum price part, minimum price per part, minimum job size per machine. So if we're running something on the Haas, it's going to have a job that's going to have to be of this value, and the parts are going to have to cost a minimum of this amount. I'm not so concerned about that with my local customers, but with Xometry in particular, there's just certain things that we are going to have to meet to make sense for us to go through the hassle of doing all that. Because
Yep.
usually whenever I get jobs from my customers, I'll get a PO and it'll be, there might be 10 different parts on it, but they're all wrapped up in one PO. And so it's a big enough chunk of things that, yeah, if I was to, if I was to do them individually on Xometry, I probably wouldn't pick some of those parts. But because it's a big deal and I'm actually building a relationship with the customer, I have no problem doing that stuff. But on the Xometry stuff, we're going to try to be very disciplined in the type of work we do and the type of feedback we give Xometry to try to train the algorithm.
Yep. That seems to be the way.
Yeah. And I will say, I don't know if it's a combination of there's more work on Xometry or the fact that we are doing a better job about giving good feedback, but I'm definitely noticing a trend in like the jobs that we take, seeing more jobs that pop up that are similar to them after we've accepted them.
Yep.
So there is definitely some training that is occurring even right now. And we accepted 6 jobs, and the prices on those jobs was too low for like they were really good money for the amount of material, but the amount of time to program, machine them, inspect them, and ship them. While if I was to look at those from a material perspective, was fine. If we're trying to hit a certain amount of dollars per day, like of our goal, there was no way we could get 6 of those jobs done with the amount of parts, get them machined, get them programmed, machined, inspected, and shipped. We couldn't get all jobs done in one day. It was just too many parts, too many differences, too much programming, um, for not enough profit in each one. So
Yeah.
while margin wise, they're fine. Like they're all relatively high margin jobs. They're too low a dollar value per job. I think the average price on those jobs was $200 to $300, which is just
Oh,
that's
yeah.
that's way too cheap
Per job.
per job.
Okay. Yeah, I think we figured out the other day that my average job value was like $500 or so,
No,
and
you
I
were in the
think that number
600s.
is just going up.
I think you were in the 600s.
Yeah, 600. Right now, I have 5 jobs on my job board, and the lowest one was these little parts that I just made. But remember, I had two orders for identical parts with slightly different materials.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that's lowering it, but that was a $500 job. Then I have $1,200, $900, $1,000, $1,400.
I had a job on my board today that was $42.
Yeah, I have seen those.
And Xometry will do something every once in a while. They'll put like $1 and it's like give me a price type of
Yeah.
stuff. But like the $42, and it was a pretty complicated part. So I was just like, what are you smoking?
Yeah,
Like
why?
someone hit the algorithm lottery for that one. But yeah,
The
no,
customer who bought the part.
yeah, the customer who bought the part.
Yeah.
Like I know
Not the job
people are,
shop.
yeah, not the job shop. I know it's going to go up in price from there. But the one thing I will say that I did notice is that on the smaller end jobs, there's a lot of competition.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think as they get more expensive, there's actually less competition, which is ironic.
Yeah, because you're competing against like guys like me and one machine in a barn.
Yeah, but
I don't want big numbers. Like,
well, yeah, and it's killing me that we don't have the 5-axis running.
yep.
Because I've seen several multi-$1,000 jobs that were just a handful of parts that were like 5-axis heaven, and I wanted those jobs so bad. I there was this one part that I saw. Imagine an octagon,
Uh-huh.
or what would be like a 16-sided thing.
A hexagon or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. It's basically 16 sides and every other one, so it had 8 fingers coming out of it, and all the fingers were tapered at a little bit of an angle, and then they had a hole drilled in the end of them, and like it was like plus or minus 5 on the whole part, and it was just a really cool looking part, and it's like this would be horrible to do any other way than 5-axis, because all 8 of those fingers, you'd have to do a different setup for every single one of those on like a 3-axis machine. But on a 5-axis machine, it would be butter. It'd be so easy. It'd be so much fun. And it's a high value part. And it's like, yeah, that's the type of part I want. I was like, I'll take that part any day, except for the today because my machine's not running.
Yeah. I'll take that part any day starting tomorrow.
So, but yeah. So I've seen a lot of parts like that, and my frustration is I think my frustration is compounded because we've hit Xometry hard again. And I'm seeing a lot of jobs that's like, man, if my Haas was running, I would take it. And yeah. Speaking of machines, I'm going to gauge the community a minute, because
Okay.
I have an idea of something that I've been thinking about, and I want to hear back from people. So this is a community response time. I love like fast things. You know, it's cool seeing races. It's cool seeing like the 3D printed benchies and like 3D printers and stuff, or like computer benchmarks where you know people will get like the latest graphics card and the CPU and they'll see how hard they can push it. Nothing like that exists for CNC machines. And so I would like to come up with a design that's standardized that people can run on their machine, or they can, there's kind of 2 stages to it. A part that people could program, they could be theoretically possible, and then parts that have been proven. And so basically people could upload a a fusion file or a mastercam or solid cam, or any of the other different types of files, and it would tell us how fast the part would run, what tooling was used, and all that information. And then they could upload a video of the part running, and that would validate it. So you'd have like the code for it and then the video of it running. And by it being standardized, people could look at the tooling, the feeds and speeds. They could search by machines. How fast can a Tormach do this part? How fast could a Haas do this part? A Brother Speedio, a Robo Drill, DN Solutions. Like, it basically would standardize it, and then people could look at their machines. They could look at the tooling. They could look at feed rates, and it'd just be a really cool way to like benchmark all the machines on a standardized, basically 3D benchy, or however you want to look at it, way of doing it. And I think it would just be cool to see the creativity of people, using unique tooling, specialized tooling, or what have you, at different, high speed, high efficiency milling, or traditional milling, or plunge milling, or whatever. It'd be cool to like see people try to get as much performance out of their machines, knowing full and well that that is not the end all and be all to CNC machines. Like, I know some people are going to sit here and roast me and go, CNC machining is not about how fast you can get it. It's about how accurate you can get it. And,
Yeah.
I understand all that. I do. But I also think, it's good to drag race your machines every once in a while just so you know what they're capable of. And I think having a process where a repository where people could kind of look through all that kind of stuff, and I think a lot of people would have a lot of fun with it too, would just be really cool.
Yeah, I agree. That would be awesome. Yeah.
And go
It's
ahead.
an interesting design challenge to design a part
Yeah,
to make on a bunch of different machines. Because you're talking from like Shapeoko to Kern.
yeah, yeah.
But also like the Benchy is interesting in its success, that like it's kind of a fun part. And
Mm-hmm.
so I feel like the part would also have to be fun.
Yeah, yeah. It's an interesting design challenge. It's an interesting. There's a lot of interesting elements to it, and I think I would like to limit it to like three materials, like a plastic, aluminum, and stainless. And so, like, depending on your machine, you could run it in one of those three materials, or you could run it in all three. But I don't want it to be massive. I'd like it to be something that it'd be a couple bucks in material if people wanted to
Yeah.
do it. But I think a lot of people would take on that challenge and just benchmark their machine and see what they can do, and then compare it to other people. I think that'd be fun.
Yeah. Single op, you think?
Probably, probably just one sided. I think I would do a backside, but not include it, just so people could like, if they wanted to like deck it off and then engrave any information on it, they could.
Yeah. Put it on their shelf.
Yeah, put it on their shelf. It'd be kind of like the 3D Benchy, but it'd be a little bit more personalized. But yeah, I'd like it to be a single op for the most part, and be able to be done on and be able to be done on a 3-axis machine. But I'd like it to be designed in such a way that a 4-axis or 5-axis could speed it up, depending on orientation.
Yeah. It'd be cool to like go to a shop and see like their benchies on their machines, and you could like evaluate, like if you were a buyer, like, okay, let me see your benchy. how do you guys do?
Well, yeah, not only that, but I would love to like go to IMTS and see like 4 different benchies on someone's table, and being like, and then you're like, guess how long it took to run each of these and which machine, and you could like examine them, and then you flip it over on the bottom and says, okay, this was run on this machine, it took this much time, this was a 3-axis part, and then this was done, and there could be different tiers. Like, it doesn't all have to be one. Like, there could be a benchy for 3-axis, 4-axis, and 5-axis. But like, I'd like to start with one thing that can be run on pretty much any machine, from the small machines to the large machines. I'd like it to be interesting, maybe serve a little bit of a purpose. I don't know, but the main thing would be, I want to evaluate finishing, roughing, drilling, profiling. Like, I want to include all the different major processes.
Mm-hmm.
That way, every machine, if it specializes in any area, like, you can see that it does well in that area. So, something like that. And like, it would have like a series of guidelines. Like, while this isn't going to be a functional part, it'd be cool. Like, in my dream world, people could mail their parts in and they could get inspected on like a CMM, and then they could get like a grade, like,
Yeah.
depending on how accurate it was. And that would be like stage 2. Like, stage 1, everyone's just doing it and you're kind of relying on people, but stage 2 would be like, this one has been graded, and like, they recorded it, we got their CAD, their file for how they machined it, and it matches the video, and then we got it, they sent their part in, and we measured it on a CMM and it got, it passed, or its farthest measurement that was out was, 4 thou or something,
Hmm.
whatever it is. Because I mean, you can get like, if you're getting into like finishing or tight tolerances, then like speed really goes into it, because you might be really fast at making the part, but how many, finishing passes or semi-finishing passes and all that kind of fun stuff. That'd be, take it to the next level.
Yeah, I think it'd be fun. I think it'd
Yeah.
be cool.
Yeah, because then you could have something for the hobbyist who's just getting started, who, I want to play around with the Shiboko. What is it actually capable of? And I know there's someone out here that would try to run the part in stainless on a Shiboko, and
Yeah.
it might take them 10 hours, but they would do it. And then you compare it to like, a Hermla or a Kern, or, something like that, and just see, how big of a difference there is. I think it'd just be fun.
Yep.
So,
And I'm over
eh,
here just like, how many holes can I drill in a penny?
yeah.
That's my equivalent. It's my
Well,
benchmark I've done on my machines over time.
I think it would be fun just to kind of leave that mark on the industry, and just to. There's so many different debates about this machine's better here, this machine's better there, and having something standardized that everyone can run at any point and post and evaluate
Yep.
would be just like a really good way. And what I would love to see is variation over time with machines. Like maybe like 2018 Haas's suck for some reason,
Yeah.
and 2019 Haas or 2020 Haas's are like the bee's knees because they got their processes dialed in, or just weird anomalies in manufacturers. Like if there was enough people, I don't know if you could pull this data out, but if there's enough people running these parts, that you could like start pulling out like metadata on like the communities of these different machines. Like that would be cool.
Well, it'd also be interesting as like you run it on your own machine once a year with the same speeds and feeds, and like check to see if the tolerances get worse over time or if
Yeah.
the finishes get worse over time.
Yeah. Yeah. So it just be really cool to kind of like accumulate all that data over time, and just have a place where people can post it. It's kind of like Titans of CNC Academy, or whatever, where like you can go on there and like post your projects and stuff, except this is like a standardized, like, it's not teaching people how to use machines. It's like looking at how people approach their parts. Because like I imagine it's going to be kind of like speedrunners, where like at the
Yeah.
beginning there's going to be like all these different ideas for how to make this part, but eventually it's going to start getting refined and refined and refined, and 5 years down the line, people are buying specialized tooling to like cut this one feature in one pass, just to save a couple microsec or a couple nanoseconds or something. I don't know, but it'd be hilarious to like see. It'd be hilarious, and it'd be awesome to see that kind of level of optimization on one part over time.
I really want to put this on speedrun.com now.
the
The machined benchy on
machine,
speedrun.com.
the machine, yeah. And so I don't know. I've just been thinking about it, and I think it would shed a lot of light in the industry over time. Like
Yeah.
it would give like a lot, like, because I don't know what it's like for everyone else, but when you're comparing all these different machines and they're throwing specs and they're throwing all this stuff, and then like they'll have their online demos or their in-person demos, and like everyone's got it's really hard to make apples to apples comparisons between all these different machines. Like,
Yep.
I want something that's universal, that can be run on anything at any time, and that it just removes all the BS, and it just be fun to see how. And I love to see people's creativity. So, anyways, that's been my community outreach for this particular episode. I want to
Okay.
I want to hear what people have to say about that, because I would love to create a website or something, or maybe just make it all open source, and like have like a stage where the community kind of helps tweak helps tweak the design to make an interesting complex part or something. I don't know. Like I want to do something though.
Yeah. You could just have people put their responses in a Discord. I was trying to think of how to handle the logistics. And like the right way to do it would be to build a custom website, but obviously that's expensive for a project that's not going to yield any money ever.
Yeah.
You could have just a Discord for it. You could also have like you could do an Airtable form. Like
Hmm.
honestly, having an Airtable document would probably be the most useful version of this.
Hmm. Yeah, and what I'm thinking of, I mean,
Or
there would be,
speedrun.com.
yeah. Well, honestly, that could be something that the Patreon page beyond paying for the IMTS, that would honestly be a good use for it as well. Is if hosting the website or something,
Hmm.
that could be a good use for the Patreon money as well. If we ever did something like that.
Yeah. I'm kind of tempted to design something. Though I have like 20 hours of cam that I need to do. So
Yeah, I know.
and I have 2 videos recorded and not edited.
Yeah, everyone's busy, and so that's the hard part behind this idea is finding time to actually get it done. But I really like this idea, and I want to come up with something. I want to do something in this realm, and I think it would just be really cool to see how the community responds to it. Like, I would love to be flooded with like an Instagram page of like, machined benchies or something.
Yeah. This
And
I'm sorry. I was just thinking about the design. I feel like the design of the part would be greatly affected by your view of machining
mm-hmm,
and like what's valuable and what's important.
mm-hmm,
And because I was thinking like, okay, I'll probably just like if I was to design it, I would design it to be made out of like 1 by 1 square bar stock, and I'd make it like 2 inches long.
mm-hmm,
And I'm like, that's a medium to large part. But
mm-hmm,
for most people, they'd be like, that thing's dinky.
mm-hmm. Yeah, and so there would definitely have to be some different variations. Like it would be hard to design one part because you'd have to design it to the least common denominator. And so like I could see a family of different types of benchies over time, but I'd like to pick something, I think pretty much every machine bar some very specific ones could probably handle, a 4x4 square or a two by
Yeah.
four rectangle. I feel like that's a size that you could go all the way down to almost I don't know what's a pocket NC's volume.
Larger than you would think.
Could it handle a 2x4x1 part?
Yeah.
So yeah, you could go all the way from a pocket NC all the way up to any machine that's from the major manufacturers.
Yeah. I think the problem, though, is on a part that size, I think basically once you got past like Tormach, it's all just about spindle speed then, and they would all have more than enough rigidity.
Yes, and that's where I would need some help. Like there would have to be some features on it, and I'm thinking like what if you had like a really thin tower on one portion of it, and you had to like work your way down it. Like it'd be cool to like have some like very delicate features with some very robust features,
Yeah.
and kind of like because you have to have a mix of areas where you kind of have to go slow and having a higher RPM spindle will make sense, or some areas where like slotting or major pocket removal where you have to adapt things away. Because I want to push different elements of it, and maybe it makes more sense to use a high feed mill, maybe it makes more sense to slot it, or that's the kind of questions I want people to ask when they're looking at the part. And oh, does it make sense to use a 1/4 inch tool or a 3/8 tool or a 1/8 tool? Like I want I want to see people's creativity. I want to see what the machines are capable of, and I want to see what tooling, how tooling affects all of that. Because it'd be cool to like look up, okay, Tormach 1100. Look at all the entries, and it's like, okay, I have a range of let's say 5 minutes to 10 minutes, and looking at the tooling that was involved in making that. Well, maybe the 10-minute part used 4 tools and the 5-minute part used 8 tools, or something, and like just kind of compare and see, like, specialty tooling, general tooling, maybe one guy used a large drill bit to punch out the pocket and then adapt away the rest. I don't know. I just want to see people's creativity to like go as fast as they can. So
I think that's interesting. I like that.
So I don't know. I know in the world of CNC, some people think speed is dumb, like, but and I think that kind of comes from like the Titans perspective. Like the
Yeah.
Titan haters, I think, fall in that camp pretty heavily. We're like, he's asking the people to do things with machines and yada yada yada, and I understand that to an extent. Like it's not about how fast you can get a part done. It's about how many parts you can get done in a set amount of time, and those two don't
Yeah.
always line up. So I understand that, but I also think it's valid to know what your machine is capable of if and when it makes sense. And having a way to people, because like, have you heard of the speed benchy or the speedboat benchy?
I don't think so. No.
So someone took the benchy, and they basically wanted to see how fast they could make it. And I
Okay.
think the current record is under 3 minutes.
So it's the normal benchy.
It's the normal benchy.
Yes, I am familiar with the benchy races.
Yeah, but they'll make the part in under 3 minutes, and it'll look horrible. But if the print does not fail, it doesn't matter what it looks like. What matters is that they got it done in under 3 minutes, and then they'll use what they've learned from getting it done that fast, and then they'll slow it down to say 8 minutes. And say a benchy normally takes 30 minutes to run. Well, they've still decreased the time drastically, and they still got a really good quality part out of it.
Yeah.
And so I think information like that could be gleaned on the CNC side of like, how fast can you push your machine to get this benchy done? And then what can you extrapolate from that to maybe not go as fast, but get really good quality and maybe shave off 30% of your time, but still maintain the reliability and the quality that you had before. And I think that would just, like, it's just that kind of that pooling of information and techniques that would be really cool to see.
Okay, well, this is our music for today because I still didn't get new music.
That's all right.
We can play it again.
Yeah, now I'm going to have to do an outro without music in my ears, and I'm not going to know what to do. That's okay. That's okay. Don't take this as a challenge. You're just going to keep doing it now. Well, guys, it's that time of the podcast where we are winding down. And for those of you that have listened, we appreciate... Oh, my gosh. This is going to become so annoying.
I'm tired.
Yeah. This has been a lot of fun catching up with AJ this week. And for those of you that listened in, hopefully you enjoyed it as much as we did. Would love to hear, like I said, love to hear community feedback on these ideas that have been discussed in the later half. And hopefully next week I'll have some good news about a Haas. So the more you know. Isn't that what that's from? The more you know?
Yes.
That's what I thought. So anyways, this is Harrison with Precision Ingenuity signing out with AJ from Design the Everything. So loud. Are you just going to keep playing it? Is this like a...